Welcome to another edition of the Best Business Minds, where we interview business leaders and academics that write thought-provoking books. I'm Marc Kramer, a serial entrepreneur who consults with family businesses and entrepreneurs, and currently I'm teaching entrepreneurship at Vinh University in Hanoi, Vietnam. Today's guest is Kelly Cutler, author of the book Search Marketing: A Strategic Approach to SEO and SEM. Uh, Kelly, welcome. Thrilled to have you here, and I really enjoyed your book.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, Mark.
So, Kelly, before we start in about the book, why don't you give us a little bit about your background and how you ended up where you are right now?
Okay, great. Well, it's really fun for me to join you today, Mark, because my background is both as an entrepreneur as well as being an academic. And I can share a little bit about that path. So I started my career in kind of the late 90s, right when the dot-com boom was starting to happen. And I worked at companies like Cars.com and AOL, which I call the original OG internet marketing company, digital marketing company.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And from there, I started my first business in 2003, which was an SEO company. And in that time, SEO was pretty groundbreaking. Actually, no one even knew what that was. So it was a good time to be in the business of helping businesses find a way to have their listing included on search engine results pages, mainly in AOL at that time, but later on Google and Yahoo. And from there, I built that business up to about 40 employees and sold it and started another company around 2014, doing a very similar approach, but a little bit wider in scope in terms of digital marketing strategy and social media and web analytics, things of that nature. All the while I had taught as kind of a side hustle. Originally, I taught SEO and web analytics at DePaul University here in Chicago. And in 2016, I think it was, I joined Northwestern University as an adjunct professor, and I taught a class called digital marketing, which I still teach to this day, along with many other classes that I teach at Northwestern ever since I joined the faculty in 2019. I'm also a participant in the Spiegel Research Center at Northwestern University, where I'm the Associate Director of Research, and I focus on how generative AI is impacting digital marketing as kind of my research area. So I teach across different schools at Northwestern. I teach at Medill in the Integrated Marketing Communications program. I also teach at Kellogg in the Exec Ed program and at McCormick and the School of Professional Studies.
You clearly don't have enough going on. You
I
got too
like to
much
stay
time
busy.
on got too much time on your hands. So, why did you write this book?
Really, the reason I wrote the book, Mark, was because I was having trouble finding a definitive sort of textbook that really went into the right level of detail with search marketing. I'm a big believer that search marketing is the foundation of a good, strong digital marketing strategy. And I teach a module in my digital marketing class that's very focused on SEO and SEM. And I had a hard time finding a definitive textbook in that area. So I decided I would write one myself. Based on my background, I felt like I was fairly well suited and well prepared to do that. And it ended up being a very good experience for me.
Well, right now, it's a very interesting time about SEO because of what's going on with AI. And And so people are now, I just heard a guy's presentation, people are now questioning how valuable is SEO now that you can just type in what you're looking for and ask, hey, who are the top 5 companies in Chicago for whatever that is, and it will pop up for you. So I think it's pretty interesting. So how is AI affecting the whole search engine optimization world?
Yeah, it's definitely having an impact, and we're seeing it in the space of digital marketing, and we're paying attention to it. I think what we're experiencing right now is an evolution. I don't think that search engine optimization is going away, but I do think it's evolving, and it's evolving very quickly. And I think marketers need to stay in front of that evolution. For example, the search sort of landscape will continue to evolve as we see ChatGPT and other AI engines start to take some of that search volume that used to go into Google or YouTube. But we are still seeing about 90% search dominance within those two search engines, Google and YouTube, which are both owned by Alphabet. So, and we are still continuing to see, people using search engines, but I do think that behavior is evolving, and I think people use different tools for different reasons. And I think that's the most important thing to keep an eye on from a digital marketing standpoint, and to never sort of sit back and just let your strategy, kind of be out there. You have to really be aggressive and be assertive and stay in front of it and evolve the strategy as the tools and the technology evolve as well.
I think maybe 15% of the people are probably using ChatGPT right now, because unless you're someone like us who is living off of this stuff on a daily basis for research or a variety of different things, you're probably not using it that often. You hear a lot about, but you haven't used it much. Um, how is Google going to make money on this? Because you can see it easily in search, right? How everything lays out. But will they use the same kind of system, or will they adopt their system for this? I mean, certainly they're not going to walk away from billions of dollars. They're going to rig the system, right? So when you do a search on AI, there's going to be some kind of ads floating in, or else how are they going to support this thing? What do you see happening in this space?
Yes, I agree. I think it's going to evolve into something that we're fairly familiar with in previous iterations of search engines and different technology, right? I mean, we can remember a time when Facebook probably, didn't have ads. I certainly remember a time when Instagram did not have ads, and now my entire feed on Instagram is ads. So we know how this game unfolds. We've seen this movie before. And we're seeing Microsoft is testing ads and sponsored listings in Copilot. We're seeing Google start to test that in certain countries and certain geographies, and certain types of searches and things like that. So I do think it'll continue to evolve. We know that advertising and Google Ads is responsible for somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70% of Alphabet's revenue. And as a publicly traded company, we know that that is very, very important revenue. So it is going to continue to evolve, and we're going to have to stay in front of that as marketers to understand, what that experience looks like for consumers and how these companies are going to monetize so that we can be part of that.
So let's jump into the book itself. In chapter one, given the increasing prominence of multi-model listings and AI-generated content in search engine pages, SERPs, should businesses adjust their SEO and SEM strategies to effectively compete for visibility, especially considering the potential impact on organic click-through rates?
So, such an important point that you mentioned, which is visibility. And I think, I've been in the SEO and SEM business for a very long time, and visibility has always been incredibly important, but now I would say more than ever before. And what I mean by that is we are seeing a sort of increase in what we call zero-click searches, where people still do searches, but they may not click. So what that means for us as marketers is we continue to evolve our strategies to make sure that if people are viewing our listing, they're having a good experience. And then later on, we have an opportunity to capture them with a paid ad or retargeting or in a different way. I think that we have to stay in front of how people are searching and what that looks like as marketers, for us in terms of opportunities. And we have to continue to try to capture those impressions and that visibility, which might be a little bit different than capturing a click or a conversion or a purchase. So it continues to evolve, and I think the metrics have to continue to evolve as well. I'm not saying that conversions and clicks aren't important, because of course they are, but I think also a very key piece of this is visibility and making sure that we're still in the game and we're still being viewed and we're still making ourselves prominent for engagement opportunities.
SEO marketing firms, and I have a friend who started a firm in Philadelphia, grew it from himself. He has like 150 people doing it. And there's a couple firms like that in Philly. Will AI just be able to do this for you? I'm sure somebody's going to create an AI engine that cuts out folks, just like in the consulting world. McKinsey and these guys are all seeing companies saying, "Why do I need McKinsey to spend $100 or $300 an hour for junior people when I can go get virtual assistants in the Philippines to do all the work for me at $10 an hour?" So are we going to see that with AI essentially doing the work that these firms used to do?
Um, I believe that AI is going to have positive impact on the digital marketing landscape in the future, and it already has. And what I mean by that is increasing productivity, increasing efficiency, providing opportunities for SEO specialists, SEO engineers, SEM optimization folks to do what they do best, which is really be creative, do analysis, find insights, do the things that human beings do really well. And I don't think that AI will replace all of those pieces, but I do think, and I know that AI has already provided massive increases in productivity and efficiency, and that's a good thing for digital marketers. We used to have a room full of people that would spend months and months cultivating a keyword list, which can now be done, in an hour, sometimes in 10 seconds, using an AI tool. But I think, there's refinement there, there's creativity there, there's balance there that human beings bring to the table.
Yeah, when probably like you, when I'm teaching students, I'm saying what the faculty brings is expertise to tell you how to ask the right questions, educating you, and imagine all the expertise that you just listed there. What they're bringing to it is knowing the right questions to ask AI. Because, frankly, I'm never going to be an SEO expert. And so I don't know the right questions. Like I could blindly go into it, but I'm probably not going to get the best results. But somebody who's doing it day to day, right? The AI tool will enhance the results they're able to get based on their expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on something really important, and that is, the right people also have experience using the right tools. And so, a big thing I talk about in my book is the three T's, which is technology, teams, and time. And those three pieces are equally important in, sort of cultivating any really well-run, marketing organization, digital marketing, SEO team, whatever it is. And I think, it's really important to understand that with SEO, you can use ChatGPT for a lot of things or a basic, a regular sort of large language model, but there are also very specific tools and technology that are built, specifically for SEO, SEM, campaign optimization, A/B testing, experimentation, really specific areas, and the right people know how to utilize those tools the right way. Whereas, more generalists may not have that type of experience. Like you said, you wouldn't know what to really ask in terms of the right questions. Whereas people who spend their entire career studying Google's algorithm and understanding search engine rankings really know how to use the right tools and ask the right questions.
In chapter one, you talked about the common separation of SEO and SEM within organizations due to their different technical natures. What practical steps can marketing leaders take to foster closer collaboration, integration between SEO and SEM teams to maximize the synergistic benefits of a unified search marketing strategy?
So in larger organizations, we often see a lot of this work being outsourced to an agency. And that can be great, but it can also be a little bit of a slippery slope. If the agency sort of just takes everything and runs with it, and the internal teams really don't know what's going on, we're sort of not getting the best practices out of the data, and we're not getting all the answers to the questions that we could if collaboration was happening. So I'm a really big proponent in collaboration. And that can look like a lot of different things. I mean, it can be as simple as, a weekly meeting where, everyone's included, whether you're working on SEO, working on SEM, or an outsource agency or freelancer or third party, everyone coming together and sharing best practices, sharing what they learned that week, sharing what they're going to be working on in the future to make sure, A, that we're not having some type of duplication of efforts, which oftentimes does happen and can be very detrimental to the overall strategy. But also, just to share what wins and what, sort of learning we've had and how we're going to be applying that to the future strategy. There are a lot of insights that come from digital marketing data that can inform the future strategy, the experiments, the A/B testing, things like that. So it's really important for all of the groups to be in communication with each other. And it's really important to break down those silos.
Now, what are you teaching students in school that's preparing them from when they leave to be really good consultants or both strategists and tacticians to utilize this?
So we do an entire segment on this topic. I would say two segments in my class, I think are really focused on what you just described. And the first one is we do a segment on data, very specific to digital marketing. And I think there's a lot of confusion and a lot of noise out in the world right now in terms of what to do with this sort of world of data. So data privacy issues, deprecation of third-party cookies, changing and tracking mechanisms is one piece of it. But also the data coming in, how do we analyze that? How do we utilize that for personalization or analytics or reporting or insights? So I do a whole deep dive just on data with my students to help them be educated and feel confident having conversations about data with their peers, with their colleagues, with their friends, with the companies that they work with. And like you said, being a good sort of data practitioner, I think is really important. And I think a lot of that comes from the confidence of knowing that they have an understanding and they have education around those topics. And then the second piece is we do a whole module on kind of planning, budgeting, resources, and working with different, stakeholder groups, whether that's a third party like an agency or working with the technology team internally at a company. Those kinds of relationships are really important for this to be successful. And also, like you said, knowing the right questions to ask, knowing how to be a good strategist, but also a good technician and a really good sort of digital marketer and knowing the right questions to ask, the right relationships to make, the right compromises to make, and the right things to kind of stand ground on.
Given the emphasis on the three-pronged approach that you talked about on page, off page, and content, how would you advise a company with limited resources to prioritize their SEO efforts? And we have many entrepreneurs who watch this show. Is there a particular prong or element within a prong that typically yields the highest ROI in the short term while still building a foundation for long-term success?
Yeah, I think, with the three-prong approach, I think the probably most relevant and hopefully the easiest one to focus in on is going to be content. And I think content is such a foundational element of a business strategy, a marketing strategy, and an SEO strategy that it's really important. And I say that meaning that it's important for users to understand what your company does, what your products offer, who you are as a business, and why your products or services are going to be important for them. And that all comes through good content. So I would say that if content is missing, the on page and the off page aren't going to save the day. So content really is the sort of the low hanging fruit and the most important of the three prongs, and also the most important for any business marketing strategy.
In the chapter 2, mentions the importance of keyword research as a collaborative effort across various departments. Can you provide a specific example of how insights from, say, the sales team or the customer service can be directly transferred into actionable keyword strategies that improve SEO performance?
Yeah. Yeah, super important. And, if you think about it, the sales team and the customer service team are the first line of defense. They're on the front lines talking to customers every single day. So it's really important to collaborate with them and for marketing to sort of have a seat at the table around what are you hearing from customers? What are customers saying? What, sort of changes, patterns, trends are you seeing? And this is also an evolution. Customers change over time. Market conditions affect how customers do searches, about how customers, make decisions about what they're going to buy, right? We know that this is happening right now in the market with all the, market fluctuations we're seeing with tariffs and with, sort of global discussions that are happening at a higher level. So it's important to really understand how that is impacting the business overall. And I think it's really great to get that information from the sales and customer service teams, and also to really listen to what they think is going to be important as we, kind of come around the next corner. What can marketing be doing to help you as you look forward at, how these different trends and different market conditions impact our business? So super important to be having a conversation with the customer service and the sales team, the technical teams as well, and oftentimes, other subject matter experts within the organization.
In chapter 3, given that EEAT is not a direct ranking factor, but a guideline for assessing content effectiveness, what are some of the practical strategies for demonstrating experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness in a way that positively influences actual search rankings and user engagement?
Google's always been slightly mysterious about their algorithm. They give sort of enough information that you can make some strong, steps forward in terms of what you should be doing from an SEO standpoint, but they won't sort of go so far as to say exactly what you should do. So EEAT is a really great guideline for content generation along sort of the lines of what Google is looking for. So what I always say to clients and to my students is, think about creating content that is actually delivering value to your customers. And what I mean by that, Mark, is not content that's promoting your business or helping you sell purple widgets, but content that truly helps your customer. So that can look like a lot of different things in a lot of different businesses. But I think sometimes it's hard for us as entrepreneurs or business owners to get out of the mindset of, I just want to sell my purple widget, and kind of flip the discussion to be, if I were a customer that was looking for a purple widget, what would help me in making the decision on which one to buy, or how to make that decision in a really well-educated way. So it's really about providing value to the customer through the content marketing.
With the constant updates to search engine algorithms and ranking systems like BERT, MUM, and RankBrain, how can SEO professionals stay current and adapt their strategies to maintain or improve organic visibility without chasing every minor update, potentially destabilizing their overall SEO efforts? And by the way, I've always wondered, if everybody hires a great SEO firm, how does someone end up on the front page, where that's, people mostly quit after looking at the first page, right, in search results?
So yeah, it's again, it's an evolution. And I would say that with the changing algorithms, this has always been the case. This is consistent. So Google still does two major updates, usually one in the spring. We had one in March, usually another one in the fall, in November, and then a lot of minor updates throughout the year. That's been the same for 20 years since I've been in this business. They continue to do that. Now, some of the updates are more impactful than others, of course. But, any good search engine marketer will be staying in front of this information and following along and paying attention. But to your point, Mark, every company is not hiring a great SEO firm or a great SEO person. A lot of companies are rolling their sleeves up and kind of doing it themselves. And that can be very sporadic. That can be once a month, once a quarter, once a year, scary to say. And a lot happens, a lot changes in that time. So the companies that are heavily invested in doing SEO really well are going to sort of have an advantage. And I think, the people who are really focused in these areas are going to have an advantage. And I will say that having run an SEO firm for many, many, many years, really good people are hard to find. And they're sort of a needle in a haystack. So it's not as easy as you might think. And I will say, a lot of companies are focused on SEO for sure, but there are so many variations in what that looks like that you can still get to the front. I think if you really work hard and have a great team and have ongoing efforts from a search engine standpoint.
You say it's hard to find good people in this space. What's the profile of people that are really good at this?
You want to find people who have a proven track record, like with anything. Talk to me about some success that you've had with SEO. And talk to me not just about, oh, they were, number one on this page for this search engine ranking, or this, query, but also talk to me about what the business impact was of that. And a good person who really understands search marketing will understand how to describe the business impact as well. So that led to a 30% increase in sales over a year, or 30% increase in leads, or 20% increase in visibility, which was measured through our organic search traffic, or our website traffic, or landing page optimization. They should really be able to speak to what the business outcomes were based on the work they did. And then the other piece I always say is I like to have a very clear understanding of what happened and what was done in order to impact those business results. So I want really a clear understanding of what that process looked like. So, we did an audit up front and we identified these 25 issues, and then systematically we went through each issue and we fixed it using these tools and monitoring it and tracking it in these ways. And then over time we saw these changes. So that type of approach is what I'd be looking for, and what I would expect to hear from someone who has a lot of good experience. Also, there are a lot of digital marketing generalists, but with SEO and with SEM, I oftentimes would look just for someone who is a very, very particular specialist in those key areas, rather than looking for people who are more generalists.
So what does STMO framework stand for? Because my question deals with, while the STMO framework provides a clear structure for digital marketing SEO, and of course you have it listed in the book, and I need you to explain to the audience, how can marketers effectively adopt their framework to account for the increasing complexity and rapid changes in the digital landscape, such as the emergence of new platforms, algorithm updates, and evolving consumer behavior?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the SITMO framework is purposely designed to be fairly high level and applicable to all areas of digital marketing. And so I'll talk through kind of what that looks like, and then I can give examples of how it works specifically with SEO or SEM. So STMO stands basically for strategy, tactics, measurement, and optimization. And I can tell you, Mark, that after 20 plus years of working in this industry and teaching a master's class in digital marketing, almost everyone wants to skip over strategy, get right into tactics, skip over measurement, and maybe even skip optimization. So each of these four pieces are equally important and none can be skipped. That's the first important point. And then the next important point is that under each of those, strategy, tactics, measurement, and optimization, are several subcategories that can be very specific depending on if you're working on overall digital marketing, or you're working on SEO, or a Facebook ad campaign, or a mobile marketing effort, or programmatic, or retargeting, or fill in the blank. But the important thing is to understand that strategy incorporates goals and objectives and cannot be skipped. We have to understand, what is the ultimate goal? What are we trying to accomplish with our effort? Then we move into the tactic. Is it going to be something where we want to use Google? Is it going to be something that makes more sense to use Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram? From that point, we go into measurement. What are the key performance indicators that will help us understand whether or not we are successful at reaching our goals and objectives? That's measurement. And then optimization is, what did we learn from the measurement and the metrics that helps us optimize this and then, continue to improve and do better. So each one of those pieces is equally important, and we cannot skip any of them. And what I find over and over again is that people want to skip strategy and go right into tactics. People are always excited about the new shiny object, which, whether that's TikTok or Instagram Reels or short form video or retargeting or SEO, whatever it is, people want to skip right into that. But if you skip the step of developing goals and objectives, you have nothing to measure back against. And so it becomes really, really important. Now, I'll give you a quick example of that with SEO or SEM. If you decide that you want to invest in search engine optimization, then you have to understand what the goals and objectives are. So is the goal that I want to show up on page 1, or is the goal that I want to sell more purple widgets? Or is the goal that I want to increase visibility, which could be measured by traffic or engagement? So really important to understand what's the goal, then what's the objective? How do I get there? What's the tactic? Do I want to increase organic search visibility or paid search visibility on specifically Google or on DuckDuckGo or Bing or whatever the case might be? Then when I get into measurement, what is the right key performance indicator that goes back to that goal? So if I want to sell purple widgets, it's an increase in e-commerce sales. If I want to go back to the goal of increasing visibility, it's an increase in organic traffic or paid search traffic coming directly from the source I identified as the proper tactic, which would be Google, more than likely. And so I'm tracking the right metrics to determine whether or not I was successful at reaching that goal. And then optimization comes into play, where I look at the trends and the patterns in the data to then sort of continue building out that strategy and those tactics. So was I successful? Was I able to hit the goal that I wanted to? If yes, then how do I continue to invest in that and build even more opportunities there? If no, then what did I do wrong and how can I optimize that to do better in the future?
A question from the audience. With the rise of AI and platforms like ChatGPT, your emphasis on content, do you think email marketing is dead?
Great question. And I've been sort of asking this question and have heard this question a lot. I think that email marketing is absolutely not dead, but I think it's under the microscope more than ever before. And what I mean by that is, as a consumer, if I receive a lot of email that is not important to me, not interesting to me, not compelling to me, it's quicker than ever that I will either send it to my junk folder or unsubscribe. So email marketing has to be done very effectively and very thoughtfully. And what I mean by that, again, is it's flipping the paradigm to really understand what's important to the customer and then giving them access to that type of valuable information within our email marketing, and also giving them an opportunity to personalize their experience. Would you like to hear from us once a week? Is that too much? Is that not enough? Would you like to hear from us once a month? Would you like offers and deals? Would you like different resources that we can provide you with? Would you like access to some free tools? Would you like access to, promotional codes, things like that? I think as we continue on with email marketing, we have to get really, really smart about offering personalization options to our customers to keep them around and keep them engaged.
In chapter 4, emphasizes the importance of SMART goals, but it acknowledges that SEO results can be uncertain and take time. How can marketers balance the need for specific, measurable, and time-bound goals with the inherent uncertainties of SEO, ensuring that goals are both ambitious but realistic?
Yeah, SMART goals are really, really important. And again, this works hand in hand with the SITMO framework by offering marketers an opportunity to get really specific about what they hope to accomplish with their SEO efforts. Now, the key here is testing and experimentation. The key here is managing expectations. So we used to always say to our clients, we are going to shoot for an increase by 20% in organic traffic over the next year with our SEO efforts, and we're going to track that and measure it. But we also want to, after year one, add in some additional SMART goals around conversion rates and things like that. So it would be, ideal to have those sort of SMART goals in place up front, but also managing expectation and understanding that everything is based on testing and experimentation, which is where optimization becomes so important.
In chapter 5, the UCHIE framework, and you have to explain what that is, provides a useful guide for creating SEO friendly content. However, demonstrating credibility can be challenging, especially for new businesses or those in industries where trust is paramount, like healthcare and finance. What are some specific actionable strategies that these businesses can use to build credibility through their content, even if they lack established authority or even widespread recognition, which happens a lot with early stage companies?
So I like to give an example here, and this also ties in with what we were talking about earlier with the EEAT guidelines that Google provides. And you mentioned that newer businesses may lack authority or trustworthiness as they're getting started. So this is where I say it's really important to leverage the resources that the company does have, and to remember that multiple stakeholder groups and different versions of experts are going to be important as we're building out the content marketing for SEO. So what I mean by that is, in healthcare, for example, I worked with a very important client in the Chicagoland area on their SEO strategy. And what we came to them and said was that for content marketing, we needed to move away from only writing promotional content that came out of the marketing and sales department. And we needed to move into creating content that was incredibly valuable for specific key customers that they were hoping to attract. And so what we did was we launched a very successful content marketing effort where we interviewed doctors, surgeons, nurses, and similar folks from their organization to talk about very, very specific things that we found in our research that customers were asking about. So that allowed us to create trustworthiness and authority where we hadn't had it before. So I think there's an important lesson here, which is leverage the resources that you do have. You may not have access to authority figures like doctors, for instance, but you do have potentially a CEO who has a ton of experience in the field or in the industry, and other individuals within the organization, board members, even people on the sales team that, again, have a lot of experience in the industry and in the business. So it's really important to leverage those individuals to help to build that trustworthiness and authoritativeness over time.
Question from the audience. Costco has a very aggressive email marketing strategy, and their website content is not that great. Do you think the size of the company affects how they should invest into content creation and SEO? The smaller the company, the more important content creation should be, or the size of the company has no relevance?
So I always like to think that smaller companies actually have a little bit of an advantage here because they can move quickly, they can be more agile, they can respond to market conditions, they can stay on the forefront of what's happening in the world, whereas bigger organizations have a lot more red tape, checks and balances, bureaucracy, and processes that will oftentimes keep them from being as nimble and as agile as small companies can be. So I've always said that SEO is a really, really great kind of level playing field when it comes to the size of an organization and their ability to play on that field.
While the chapter highlights the benefits of creating, this is chapter 5, creating a keyword universe and performing content audits, it doesn't delve into the process of measuring ROI of content marketing efforts. What are some of the key performance indicators, KPIs, which is very big here in Vietnam, KPIs, and analytical techniques that marketers can use to track the success of their content strategy, and how can the data be used to refine their keyword universe and content creation process over time? And I'm guessing AI is playing a huge role in this now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that content marketing oftentimes comes into engagement metrics. You know, how engaged are our customers, and how engaged is our audience with the content that we're providing them? And if the answer is not very engaged, then that's a signal that we're not doing, we're not doing the best job that we could. So let's test and experiment and try different things. I always say one of the best practices with content marketing is to take a piece of content and format it in multiple different ways. You talked about multimodal searching earlier, where people will use videos and audio and different modes of communication in their searches. And so I think as marketers, we have to be thinking about that as well. So for instance, I could take a chapter of my book and I could create a short video that explains that chapter and summarizes it in a short form video. I could also be on your podcast, Mark, and create something that people can watch in a longer format. I could also potentially create an ad campaign with, very short, statistics or datagrams or things that might grab someone's attention and get them to want to read more about my book. So it's really important to try different things out and then measure engagement. What are people reacting to? And you measure engagement with things like likes, shares, comments, and it's also important to analyze the data that comes back in. So what are people saying when they do place comments on our content? Are they using the same keywords that we thought they would? Are they using different keywords? It's always amazing to me how different people search in different ways and use different keywords to express similar things. So it's really important to pay attention to all of those pieces.
Are there free services that you can use to figure out what the best keywords are for your website?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of free tools out there. Actually, ChatGPT is a nice tool that a lot of marketers are starting to use for keyword research to help kick things off. And you can really use also specific tools. Many SEO tools in particular have free trials or have free versions that you can use. And then there are also tools that help us monitor our brands and really understand what the sentiment is, what the keywords are around our brands or our competitors, things like that. So tools like SEMrush, WordStream, Ahrefs are search engine marketing specific tools. But then, again, tools like BrandWatch or Meltwater that help us understand sentiment analysis, BuzzSumo, other tools like that. And then, of course, there are a plethora of AI tools now that are out there that are available to us. Crayon is a good one for competitive analysis and understanding how competitors are utilizing their keywords for search marketing efforts. And lots of opportunities to utilize AI to get more information about some of these topics.
If you're interviewing somebody to handle this for you, how do you know who's better than another person? I mean, you can ask them for results of campaigns and talk to folks, but when you're doing these initial interviews to determine who you should really narrow the choices down to, what kind of, I guess, what kind of criteria should you be using?
It's a lot of open-ended questions that will be so important here to really gauge whether or not the candidate feels confident in their responses. In my experience, a very strong digital marketer has a lot of confidence because they've had good results and they've done the hard work to achieve those results, and they're willing to speak to that in a fairly deep level of detail. So, you want to, really ask a lot of open-ended questions and make sure that you're not, leading the witness and asking a lot of yes, no questions, making it easy for them to give a short response, but really those open-ended questions around, talk to me about the process that you went through for that. Also, what are you seeing as the future of search engine optimization? How do you stay in front of that? How are you testing and trying different tools, and what have you found in terms of, what's been the most successful, where the challenges lie, things of that nature.
And chapter 6 emphasizes the importance of data-driven decision making in SEO, which I think it's all data-driven decision making. However, with the increasing focus on your user privacy and data regulations like GDPR, PR, and CCPA, how can the marketers effectively gather and utilize website metrics while remaining compliant and respecting user content?
Super important topic, and another topic that continues to evolve and change and is so important for us as marketers to stay in front of, is data privacy and the evolution of data regulation, data privacy. Global ad blocking is at an overall high right now. It's about 47% of people globally will either shut off ads or use some type of ad blocking behavior. So more than ever before, it's important that we're compliant. But that being said, I also think that this sort of tracking and measurement piece continues to evolve. So we have to really focus in on gathering and utilizing first party and zero party data, meaning data that our customers have knowingly and willingly shared with us, versus trying to go through these third parties to collect data that A, might not even be useful, and B, might not be compliant. So zero party data allows us to actually provide our customers with valuable information in exchange for them sharing certain information or data with us. And that can be done through surveys, quizzes, profile creation, things like that, to really help our customers feel that they can trust us because we're giving them something of value, but then also feel that they can share certain information with us because it will increase their user experience with us. So those are some of the areas that I'm really focused on in terms of data compliance, is really making sure that customers know, understand, and feel comfortable sharing their data with us.
While the chapter, and that's 6, lists SEO metrics, it doesn't delve into the nuances of attributing value to each metric. What are some of the best practices for weighting or prioritizing different SEO metrics, organic traffic versus keyword rankings versus share of voice, to accurately assess the overall success of an SEO campaign? And how might this prioritization vary depending on the specific goals of the campaign?
It varies significantly based on the goals of the campaign. So if the goal of the campaign is to increase brand visibility, then we want to track a metric that is associated more with brand. So that would be increased brand sentiment, increased organic traffic, increased impressions, things like that. Whereas if it's a performance marketing effort, we want to track more performance metrics like clicks, conversions, sales, and leads. So it's really, really important, again, going back to that SITMO framework, that we start with strategy, we understand the goals and objectives, we also build out the tactics, we look at the measurement and the optimization as a full circle.
In chapter 7, the chapter discusses the importance of ad rank and its various components. In a dynamic and competitive auction environment, what are some advanced strategies that marketers can use to continuously optimize their ad rank and maintain a competitive edge beyond the basic factors like bid and ad quality? And how does an early stage company even afford to play in this game?
So in that chapter, I dive pretty deep into some of the tools, reports, metrics that we can get out of Google Ads to help inform the strategy. And unfortunately, most search marketers don't fully utilize all of that data and information. So we're talking about SEM now, which is, paying for performance, paying for clicks on Google. We have full control of every aspect of paid search. Whereas with SEO, we have very little control. Google's algorithm has more control. Our competitors have more control, things like that. With paid search, we have all the control in the world. So I always, sort of encourage my clients and my students who are getting into this area to really take full advantage of the tools that are available through Google, specifically if we're running Google Ads campaigns, to fully understand the signals that are coming through Google, and then utilize those to really kind of inform our strategy with paid search. You also asked how someone gets started on a minimal budget. The great news with Google is anyone can advertise with Google Ads, and oftentimes the smaller companies do a much better job at this because, again, they're not sort of tied down by all the bureaucracy and all the levels of red tape and approvals needed and things like that. Smaller companies can be very agile. I started my very first company with, a computer, and I was sitting in a room running campaigns for my clients myself. Over time, I hired experts to do that for us. But the barrier to entry is very small. I will say it's important to really understand how to use Google Ads so that you have the proper budgets in place, the proper bid prices set up front so that the campaign doesn't run away from you. But really, it's a very level playing field, and any marketer can get started with it. There are also really great tutorials all over the place, in terms of Google has them, YouTube has them, but also LinkedIn Learning offers a ton of great resources. And there are just, free YouTube videos that people can access if they want to learn how to use Google Ads effectively and what to be looking for when you're getting started.
While the chapter provides a good overview of different pricing models, CPM, CPC, CPA, it doesn't delve into the complexities of choosing the right model for a specific campaign. What factors should marketers consider when deciding what pricing model is most appropriate for their campaign goals, and how can they effectively manage their bids and budgets to maximize ROI within each model?
So it's fairly straightforward. CPM is cost per thousand impressions, and that really is focused on, kind of brand and visibility. That's sort of the very, very top of the marketing funnel. If you look at a funnel, the very top is, okay, we just want lots of traffic and we want it to be around these particular, categories or areas of our business. And we want to, see a lot of impressions. We want our traffic numbers to go up. So that's CPM. CPC is much more focused on, we want to drive quality traffic that people click, through, and they come to our site, and we're willing to pay for each visitor that comes to our site. CPCs can be anywhere from 75 cents to $150, depending on what the category or industry is. So it's really important to understand, if CPC makes the most sense. And then cost per acquisition is more about driving leads. So again, it really depends. Is it a brand effort? Is it a performance effort? What are the goals of the campaign? And then how do I utilize the right, sort of measurements to ensure that I'm getting the right traffic and I'm, sort of achieving the right goals. The book does go into a lot of detail about how to really understand each of these goals and kind of how that relates back to the campaign.
In chapter 8, the chapter discusses the importance of a landing page optimization for SEM success. What are some specific A/B testing strategies that marketers can use to continuously improve their landing page performance, and how can they effectively measure the impact of these changes on their overall campaign ROI?
Yeah, it's really straightforward. It can be very, very simple. So an A/B test is literally taking one element and testing two versions of that element. So I always say the easiest things to think about would be a color choice, a visual choice, like what is the image? Do we have people in the picture, or do we have a picture of our product, for instance, like different images? A call to action. So saying something like buy now versus free shipping. So literally the text or the language that we use, the words that we use in the call to action. And then also things like the font, or whether or not the text is in a text box, or we use bullet points, things like that. But the idea with an A/B test is we want to isolate one element and we want to test two versions of that, and very quickly and easily see which one outperforms and then optimize based on that.
Also in Chapter 8, while the chapter provides a list of Google ad campaign types, it doesn't delve into the strategic considerations for choosing the right campaign type for specific business goal. Could you elaborate on how marketers should evaluate their campaign objectives, budgets, target audiences when deciding between different market campaigns such as search, display, shopping, or performance maxing? And how much should you be budgeting for a decent campaign that could yield some results?
So shopping is very specific to, sort of including your inventory in the shopping results when people do, when people do specific searches or land on specific pages. So shopping is very specific to that. So picture your inventory, your SKUs, becoming part of the shopping experience when people are doing, those types of searches or landing on those specific pages. Display is the most broad. And really, I sort of stay away from display typically, unless it's a really sort of big brand effort. But if we're talking about performance, we really want to focus in on either search or performance max. Search will allow us to specifically target those keywords and then really control the message that we have in the landing page and all of the different components that go into that ad on the search engine results page. So search is really kind of the focus area. Performance max is an opportunity for us to leverage all of Google's properties across shopping, display, mobile, search, etc., and use AI and some of the tools built into Google to really, maximize performance. I will always put the disclaimer out there that performance max must be monitored very closely, because what Google wants to provide you with is maximum exposure, which may not be in line with the goals of the campaign. So if the goals are maximum performance, we want to be really careful about exposure and visibility, because budgets can, sort of go up. To that point, you asked a question about budgets. I recommend going into Google Ads and setting up a campaign and really viewing the data around the keywords and your landing pages and what you offer to come up with a good budget. It's something that really varies depending on so many factors: your industry, your products, how competitive it is. Also, do you want to target people just in Chicago or in the entire United States, or just in particular cities, or just in particular rural areas, or just in certain zip codes, or just in Vietnam? You can do all of these things. So it's important to really go in and set up a campaign to get a sense of what that might look like, and then determine what is the best budget.
Here's our last question. It's from the audience. What advice have you regarding the different in content creation when aim is increasing sales and not visibility? If, for example, a website has okay visibility and very high engagement, most pages have about 90% engagement, but needs to improve in online purchasing, what normally is missing in your experience? What type of content would you advise to add to the website to optimize sales?
Great question. And I would answer that with testing and experimentation. So I think, we don't test and experiment as much as we should, and as much as we can with digital marketing to answer those questions. So I would try a few different things. I would try content pages that include incentives, free shipping or 10% off, or some type of an incentive to try to move people through that process. I would also try breaking the content up into smaller pieces and potentially promoting that in different ways. So I think there are a few different things that you could test out. But the key factor here is always be testing, always be experimenting. It's amazing that you have such great engagement rates across your content. That's the hardest part oftentimes. So now it becomes about, okay, what's the right call to action? What's the right product to sell to this audience? Also, how do I cross-sell and upsell? So really starting to, get a little bit deeper into the calls to action, so that you can make sure that you're providing the right call to action, the right opportunity for a customer to buy something that's in line with what they need and what they're looking for.
Emily, the hour went by in a millisecond. So I really enjoyed, and you're very good at communicating these concepts where a generalist could understand. And the book does a great job of that as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And I'm hoping this won't be your last book.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Everyone, thanks for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Everybody have a safe and great weekend. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.